but it's a worthy goal, and this bill will help. I commend the bill to the House.
I call the honourable member, the Honourable Steve Chadwick.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I'll join the chorus today that this bill, the prohibition of display in 2 years, is going to be a great achievement, and it is the next step in a long journey, and lots of people have mentioned that journey, and the Labor government certainly supports the aspirational goal of New Zealand being smoke-free by 2025. And in order to do that, and a lot of people have talked about the leadership that's needed to do this, I want to acknowledge Tariana Turia and congratulate you for actually taking on Minister Ryle and saying that this was important. It was important to all New Zealanders, and I thank you for that, and convincing the Minister of Health that it isn't just excise alone that's going to make the difference in smoking cessation, and that you needed a package, and a comprehensive package, to make the difference for the health of all New Zealand. We have talked about Tukuroirangi Morgan. He handed the mantle on, and I enjoyed working with the leadership of Helen Clark, who actually was determined that we were going to get through the Smoke-Free Environment Amendment Bill, and Minister Turia was in our team at that time, and she supported that take way back then, and she knew the debates and she knew the challenges that we faced with that next incremental step. And I just want to record about how times have changed. I got handled the mantle, but there was an element of poison about any reform in public health about smoking cessation. And this was just about prevention of second-hand smoke. I got death threats. I had white powder delivered to my office and security ring-fencing it, and I had to be escorted back to my home at night after Parliament. It was an environment in the House that was as toxic as tobacco, and how it's changed. And I hope at the end of today, Minister Turia, you get a bouquet of flowers, and you do from us in Labor for your leadership. And I'm sure intergenerationally we'll be back in the House. But I do just want to mention, don't usually bring family into debates, but when I was caught in the toxic environment, one night after sitting in the House for 5 hours in the chair sponsoring the bill, I went back to my office and thought this journey is simply too hard. Even with the support of all of the NGOs that did uffie us through that process then, I thought this is just too hard. I feel like walking and pulling the plug. And I went home that night, and my youngest son said to me, "Mum, you look dreadful." And I said, I feel awful. I'm not sure about this. And he said, "What is it?" And I told him it was about the Smoke-Free Environment Amendment Bill. And he said, "Mum, keep going. We're really proud of you because you're doing the right thing." And that was all young kids who were at that time about 23, 24. They knew it was wrong. They went into pubs and bars, and they knew that they were actually inhaling an environment that wasn't good for their health, wasn't good for the cleaners, wasn't good for those that chose to live their lives in a clean environment. So the environment's changed, but it's changed because of advocacy, and I want to acknowledge all of those advocacy groups, to Papatakaro, ASH, the Heart Foundation. Without them, I don't think we could have got there, actually. They gave us the information, they gave us the research, they gave us the evidence, and that's what we need as legislators, to feel brave about doing the right thing. So I do want to acknowledge them, and I did hear a specific mention made of Dr. Maury Logerson, and I think he has been amazing, along with the evidence from Professor Beaglehole. You couldn't go wrong, actually, when you had the evidence. It was so compelling. Then, at that time, 380 New Zealanders died every year just by passive smoke, the effects of passive smoke. And now, with this legislation, 5,000 smoking-related deaths will be prevented in this country, and that is absolutely fantastic. But public health, I have been interested to hear government members talk about the great contribution of an increase in excise tax. That's got nothing to do, it's one leg of the stool in good public health legislation, and I wonder when government will really understand that that's about leadership. It's about advocacy and accepting advocacy, and actually accepting advocacy and lobbying. And the environment for lobbyists and advocates in this country was changed dramatically in 2004 when Rodney Hyde said it's no longer the place for groups that advocate to get funded from government, and I think that was a very, very sad day, because where else do we get our evidence? That's advocacy in my book. It's also about education and information for the public, so they can make choices, but so you can socialise change. And I want to thank the media that also ran the stories. They ran the good, the bad and the ugly stories, but still they ran the stories that informed the public at that time, and I think that's important. But above all, the sort of slow burn approach to public health legislation for smoking cessation must be backed by legislation. It's not just excise tax, it is legislation, and legislation with teeth, and I think that's what we're seeing here today. I do want to talk about incremental change in public health legislation and public health approaches and policy. In 2004, that previous bill was passed. Then there was a petition in 2008 that gave us very clear steer of where society, really, the community wanted to go next with smoking cessation. And I do recall Tony Ryle, the Minister, arguing that there is absolutely no international evidence that banning cigarette displays has resulted in a reduction of smoking rates. And how wrong he is. But something must have gone on quite magically, and I know how persuasive Minister Turia is if she's got a bee in a bonnet, and she's got on side with Minister Ryle, and well done to that, because this is why we're here today. Without that, you wouldn't have had the backing, and we wouldn't have had the backing. Yes, Mr Speaker, well, not you. You've always got our backing. And I do want to acknowledge to Ian Lees-Galloway, after that public petition, he picked up all the recommendations in that petition, put it into his own members' bill, because he knew where we needed to go as a country to reduce smoking uptake and the effects of smoke. But a gap in public health approach of 8 years from the previous legislation is far too long. I put a ring around us being back in the House in 5 years. We'll be back here with the next legislative shift that will keep the foot on the pedal of this slow burner. We cannot also say that we're doing enough about smoking cessation when we cut public health funding last year in last year's budget. I think it's appalling, actually, that people who made that window of opportunity decision that they were going to stop smoking found that a lot of the access to the services they needed to stop their habit, they made the choice, good on them. You've got to catch that golden window, and we cut smoking cessation programs, and that's sad, and that's not a comprehensive response from a government that really believes in making a difference. I've talked about the organisations, but one other plaudit is for those in the Ministry of Health. I am so relieved to know, I'm sure it's not called a tobacco directorate, but there must be a small directorate in the Ministry of Health still advising on public health issues, probably going to move now to alcohol and the effects of alcohol and the effects of obesity. But thank goodness that those officials are still there to advise the Select Committee. Well done to the Select Committee. It's been a great response to the bill, good amendments, and I'm delighted to support this next stage in the House today.
I call the honourable member